This policy is one policy that goes to solve the problem of reducing corruption and illicit financial flows. This policy goes to resolve some of the problems in the economy. This policy also goes to reducing the level of insecurity in the country. So these three issues, which are the tripod of this administration's policy, are all embedded in this policy. We should just allow it to work. We keep saying this. There are some temporary pains, but I can assure Nigerians that the long-run benefit to Nigeria is overwhelming, and we should just give it a chance.
Members of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, my respected colleagues, members of the House of Representatives, and specifically members of the Special Ad Hoc Committee on Naira Redesign, Cashless Policy, and Currency Swap. Like you may have known, it's a committee that has been set up by the House of Representatives upon a motion raised on the floor of the House of Representatives. And subsequently, the House gave the committee the mandate to continue to interface with the CBN fundamentally and with all other relevant agencies of government that have one thing or the other to do with this cashless policy and the change of the Naira note in the Nigerian economy. And on this note, when we now presented our first report to the House, bearing in mind that we were going for general election break, the mandate of the committee was further extended by the House, by the leave of the Speaker, that while the House is on break, that the committee remains as the only window to continue to interface with the CBN specifically, and obviously every other agency that has something to do with this cashless policy, and most especially the redesign of Naira note, which of course you can agree with me has become a very major, very serious problem in the country. So for those of us who are now holding brief, for the entire members of the House of Representatives and by extension the National Assembly, we must follow off every step. And it is on that note that we felt it is worthy and we deemed fit to seek for an appointment with the audience of Mr. President this morning. And thank God Mr. President obliged us an audience, which of course we met him. One important thing I must stress is that, yes, Mr. President had earlier on in the morning came up with a national broadcast, which he used to address Nigerians. And most of the issues and the outcries we wanted to really discuss with Mr. President is like he has addressed a lot of them in the course of his national broadcast this morning. But that notwithstanding, Mr. President allowed us opportunity to meet with him, believing the fact that this is a committee that represents the institution of the legislature, which of course is an arm of government standing on its own. And when you have issues to do with policies of government, when you have matters that border on the lives and livelihood of our people, then the best institution to speak for Nigerians is this institution, the National Assembly, and in this case, the House of Representatives. I want to commend Mr. President for the fact that despite his tight schedule and despite of the presentation he has made to the nation today, he agreed to meet with us. And one more important thing that excited each and every one of us was that when we met Mr. President was already on ground with all the relevant agencies that have to do with this currency redesign and Naira swap. The CBN governor was there at the instance of Mr. President. Of course, we never wrote to the CBN governor to join us here. The representatives of the Ministry of Finance was there. The SGF was also represented there. The Inspector General of Police was also there. I'm trying to say that I, as the leader of this committee, and by extension, a representation of the House of Representatives, are truly impressed by the outing we have had with Mr. President, because everyone that matters as far as this policy is concerned was on ground to interface with this committee. And of course, Mr. President gave his own take. We also gave him our own take. We represent the people. And vice versa, we also represent Mr. President as partisan actors, political actors. We represent Mr. President in our various constituencies. Of course, Mr. President is under moral and statutory obligations to listen to briefings from head of government and agencies. And I so also believe that Mr. President has same obligation to listen to his ambassadors, those of us, especially those of us that belong to the ruling party, and indeed even those who are in the opposition, are ambassadors of the government in their local areas, in the ghettos, in the streets. So we came to say to Mr. President that in spite of the presentation he made today, the national broadcast, in spite of the fact that, yes, he has ordered the CBN to make some amendments, to take some new steps to ameliorate the hardships this policy has already entrenched into our economy, which is impacting very negatively on the lives and livelihood of Nigerians whom we are representing in the National Assembly. We told Mr. President clearly that we commend him for that, but it is not yet Uhuru. It is not yet Uhuru because agreed, for instance, that central bank has been directed to make sure they make money available. This new Naira note should be made available into the economy for the village people, for the SMEs, the traders, petty market traders, women in the market to have access to. But how do we ensure that Mr. President's directive is actually being carried on the ground, on the field? That cannot be guaranteed. So we thank God Mr. President addressed us and addressed the CBN governor once again to our face. And we also got the opportunity to tell the governor of the central bank that, yes, you must go on ground to implement the directive of Mr. President as it is, as contained in the letters of his speech, not as a matter of perception, not as a matter of professional guide. You cannot be more professional than the feelings of the actual players in the marketplace, in the economy. No matter what policy you want to bring, no matter how good or brilliant that policy is, as long as it brings about hardships, pressure, stress in the system, then that policy must be deemed to be otherwise. And it is on this note that we told Mr. President that we will continue to interface with these relevant agencies, especially the CBN governor. Of course, while we are discharging our constitutional right to oversight every institution of government, we must ensure that the directive of Mr. President is carried out to the latter. And failure to do that, we will also employ every instrumentality of the law, legislative instrumentality, to ensure that presidential orders are being abided by and laws of the land are also respected. I want to acknowledge in Mr. President's speech that he has come to be on same page with us as regards the interpretation of Section 20, subsection 3 of the CBN Act, where it says very clearly that if the banknote is being redesigned and there is what you call old and new Naira, the old currency must be redeemable at time of presentations, either at the central bank or at the commercial banks. This is contained in Mr. President's speech, which otherwise, in the speech of the CBN governor, he otherwise said, oh, that can only be redeemable at the central bank. What the Constitution says that that money must be redeemable on presentations to the banks, whether central bank, commercial banks, or whichever, even if it's microfinance bank. After all, would you expect a local trader in Jibia or a local trader in Badagry to come and have access to the central bank? Do individuals have private accounts in the central bank? Central bank is not an individual account operator. So certainly policies are made, and when such policies are now seen to be quite impracticable, or they are seen to be very inimical to the development of the nation or the economy in terms of its fiscal management or fiscal administration, those of us in the House of Representatives, as representatives of the people, we have the statutory mandate to blow the whistle. And that is what we are doing. We have blown this whistle in the National Assembly on the floor of the House, and we have come this far to blow same whistle to Mr. President, while thanking him for the new steps he has taken to cushion the effect of this unfortunate policy.